A murder investigation is underway in Seattle. Thanks for joining us. I'm Aaron Wright. State troopers are on the search for a suspect. Cairo 7's Samantha Lomibao spoke with Washington State Patrol, who's leading this investigation. Sammy, what's the next step?
Since troopers suspect foul play, there will be a homicide investigation into what happened here early this morning. Now, there will also be an autopsy to figure out who this victim was. But more importantly, troopers just want to put a name and bring dignity to the person's life.
I-5.
A routine encampment cleanup along I-5 on Friday in an area known as the Jungle took a turn for the worse around 9 a.m.
When they were cleaning away the debris and cleaning away the tents and so forth, a strong odor was noted by some workers.
Chris Loftus with Washington State Patrol tells me that odor led to the discovery of human remains inside the encampment near Dr. Jose Rizal Park. Local nonprofits and other state agencies were part of the outreach.
This keeps going.
We Heart Seattle, a nonprofit that helps with the cleanup efforts, shared this video on Friday showing an area near the scene. It's unclear how long those remains had been there.
For the odor to be such that it would alert the workers in the way it did, you have to think that there was a level of decomposition that had occurred.
Loftus believes there was foul play, immediately triggering a homicide investigation by WSP. He hopes they can put a name to the victim soon.
We want to bring some dignity back to the process and dignity back to this person and treat this with the seriousness it deserves.
Loftus says WSP is actively working to move people out of encampments and into better situations in order to keep everyone safe and prevent these types of tragedies.
Regardless of this person's status in life, regardless of their story, it was a human story. This was someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's friend. And we need to remember that.
Washington State Patrol says even with the suspect still out there, there's no signs of any ongoing threats. The next steps, again, just figuring out what led up to this and why. In Seattle, Samantha Lomibao, Cairo 7 News.
So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I did we did a little on-site work. We went and looked at Dr. Jose Rizal Park, however you say that name, when we had the gentleman who was living in the park using an excavator to knock down some trees and do a little bit of mining. Yes, this is in a park in Seattle. Intersection of Interstate 5 and I-90, Dr. Jose Rizal, I think, yeah, that's what it's called. And the area where the fence was in that video, I believe there was a young lady that was in a tent. I was walking with Andrea Suarez of We Heart Seattle, and we came across a young lady who we don't know what her circumstances were, but it was very close to where in that video they were showing the tent. So I've been at that park. I have been with Andrea Suarez, doing outreach. And to find that type of thing is absolutely, that's got to be just mind-blowingly horrific from the standpoint of what is that smell? And you just think, oh man, let this be just an animal. You open up a suitcase and there's a horribly, disfigured and decomposed body of a woman. And like the reporter said, or the spokesperson said, that's somebody's daughter. I mean, that could be somebody's mom. That could be somebody's grandma. We don't know. Body was so decomposed. Human remains found during encampment cleanup in Seattle. I mean, just the whole thing is brutal. In Washington State Patrol. So this is on the east side of Interstate 5, going right into downtown Seattle. So State Patrol territory because of it's on a roadway. That State Patrol and We Heart Seattle was probably out there helping clean up. I think I heard Tim's voice, Andrea Suarez's kind of manager of that. So meanwhile, as that is happening, we've got this new story. As violent crime drops nationally, Washington takes a wrong turn. Uh-oh. That's not good. What do we got going on here? Violent crime is down across the nation. It's a rare bit of good news these days. But here in Washington, it seems we're not getting the memo. Instead, we're charting our own course. and it's not a good one. According to FBI data analyzed by the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, violent crime nationwide decreased by 4.1% over the past 5 years. That's murders, rapes, robberies, assaults, the big ones. But in Washington, violent crime has surged nearly 20%. Murders alone have jumped by a staggering 80% from 2019 to 2023. Here's my thought. This fentanyl. This is gang activity, fighting over drugs, and then the whacked out drug addicts fighting each other. And like this individual met their end. I mean, when you're in those encampments, you don't know what's going on. I mean, it's just this really weird space because everybody, you see all the garbage. And so you're walking around in, this garbage strewn environment and you don't know what you're going to come across. You have no idea. And, you're filming sometimes and you're like, good Lord, should I be filming in here? We don't know what is going to come up. And you don't know what's going to come up. I remember Jeremy Harris of Como flying a drone over Mercer Street encampment. We've got 80,000 cars a day, going by on this one main on-ramp, off-ramp to Interstate 5. And he was flying his drone over. Yeah, there was a body rolled up in a blue tarp and it had just been in the encampment, just laying there. Somebody murdered a woman, put her body in a tarp, rolled her up, stuck her kind of near the house that, a construction worker who's homeless and, doing who knows what, built on the side of the freeway on-ramp. So murders alone have jumped by a staggering 80%. I think that's drug related. I mean, straight up. That makes sense to me. Car thefts tell a similar tale. Across the country, they're up almost 45%, which is troubling enough. But here, they've skyrocketed by 110%. It's as if we've hung a sign, "Steal me" sign on every car. You know what? That part there, we defunded the police in Seattle, and that has spread in Washington state. And criminals know they can get away with it. We don't have enough cops to keep the community safe. So these individuals who are just stealing cars willy-nilly, there's nothing to really prevent them from doing so. And they know it, and they're getting away with it. But so what's going on? Former King County Sheriff Steve Strachan, now the executive director of whatever that is, has some thoughts. Speaking to Carlene Johnson at thecentersquare.com, Strachan didn't mince words. Very concerning is that the murder rate in Washington was more than 5 times the national average, he said. In other words, our rate of homicide in Washington is far exceeding national trends. Strachan points to our chronic shortage of police officers. Washington has the lowest ratio of law enforcement officers to population in the entire country. A dubious honor we've held for over a decade. Hey, go Washington, go. Oh, so great. Oh, no, that is not the kind of honor we want. Dubious honor? No, it's not dubious. That's terrible. We were well below the violent crime rate nationwide in 2019. Strachan told Johnson, not so long ago, you could view the state of Washington as a pretty low crime rate. And now we're moving in line with the national average, and that shouldn't be acceptable to anyone. It's not, but you got to remember those electing the officials that are responsible for this ridiculousness, they're kind of okay with it. They're kind of okay with it until they're not, right? I've been calling out this stuff for a long time now. Vehicle theft rate from 2022 to 2023 for Washington state is more than twice the rate nationally. So you're more than twice as likely to have your car stolen in Washington than in the country overall, he added. It's not hard to see why this might be happening. The bad guys certainly don't. When there are fewer police officers on the streets, criminals feel emboldened. Last year, we added only about 100 officers statewide, not even enough to keep up with the population growth, not to mention the number of police officers that are quitting, retiring, making a lateral move elsewhere. just basically going away. Why would you want to stay in Washington State when you could go elsewhere, have an easier job, get paid the same, and maybe live in an area where housing isn't quite so expensive? Any one of those reasons are enough for folks to, when they make their decision, going to pass on Seattle, going to pass on Western Washington. Just a hard no-go. It's almost as if we've collectively decided that the best way to address issues in policing is to have fewer police. Yeah, that'll work. That should be just great. I mean, what could go wrong, right? The nationwide protest in 2020 called for meaningful reforms, but did we mean for criminals to take it as an open invitation? I think they have. I think they saw opportunity and they just went boom. And then we've had the whole fentanyl deal. Seattle has been ravaged by fentanyl. You know, one of the crazy things about the fentanyl story, and my son that is no longer with us is included, is that the numbers of fentanyl overdoses are decreasing. And that is primarily because the numbers of that population that have been abusing fentanyl are dying off. People that consistently use fentanyl are dying off. So that population is literally eating itself out from the inside. You just have fewer and fewer of those abusing that drug because it's killing off so many. I mean, it just shocking to read that kind of story and go, oh, well, that does make sense. And then if you have a area where you don't have enough police officers, that makes sense as well, right? Recruiting and retraining law enforcement officers is no easy task these days. The job is tougher than ever, and public scrutiny is high, and we don't allow them to do their job. You know, you've got all these ridiculous things like, oh, you can't pull somebody over for, you know, a broken signal. Oh, you can't pull them over for a headlight that's out. Oh, you can't pull them over for tabs that are expired. But, you know, it's not like they're going after folks for tabs. You know what I mean? But because of perceived racism, that is the case. But the criminals know that that means they're going to get away with a ton more than they used to be able to. So why not push the envelope? And even if they do get busted, it's a revolving justice system, right? You know, nobody's really doing any hard time. Everything that used to be a felony is now a misdemeanor. And a lot of misdemeanors are, you know, barely even a parking ticket now. So why wouldn't we have, you know, these levels of criminal activity rise to the occasion? But we can't ignore the consequences of a dwindling police force. If we don't address the shortage, we'll continue to see these troubling trends. Troubling? I have concern. I am troubled. You know, there's a lot of conservative folks that have been calling this out for a long time, myself included. At some point in time, you're going to pay the Pied Piper, right? You're going to have a mass event, mass casualty event. You're not going to have enough police officers, and the general public across Seattle and Western Washington is going to go, what happened? Why aren't there enough police officers responding? I don't understand. Where are our taxpayers' dollars going to? Yeah, you're going to see that. And folks that have been following this storyline are going to go, well, we saw that one coming, and hate to say it, but told you so. If you don't have enough cops, you have a big enough event, and things are going to go haywire. You're going to have some shenanigans. And by that, I mean, you're going to have some major breakdown and just, this isn't good. And it's not good. The real issue is you don't have the ability to, Johnny on the spot, hire police officers because you've villainized policing so badly, including everything that happened the summer of 2020 and, you know, defund the police. Greatest concept ever. Until it wasn't. Yeah. It's time to prioritize public safety. That means investing in our law enforcement agencies and supporting those who protect and serve. Our communities and our safety depend on it. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they always have. So this whole knuckleheaded concept of, well, let's just take funding away from the police and put it into social programs in the community. You need that as well. But when you did what Seattle did to policing, and it wasn't just defund the police, it was the entire attitude, and it was a national attitude for a split second. There was just a bunch of far left, knuckleheads, and it carried over to the rest of society. Oh, defund the police, greatest thing ever. And it wasn't. And so now, we've come full circle. It's been a quick, 4 years. And all of a sudden, yeah, not enough police. Yeah. You would have never seen Cairo write this a few years ago. Just wouldn't have happened. Would have been a no-go. And here you are. Human remains found during encampment cleanup in Seattle. I mean, whole thing. When folks in Seattle want to say, hey, just let people live wherever they want to in the homeless encampments, that was actually a thing. People didn't want these homeless encampments swept out. They didn't want them shut down. And a lot of folks did. And, Andrea Suarez is out there with her crew cleaning these areas that are typically on steep terrain areas. And they come up with, human remains in a suitcase. I mean, let's chop up the body and stick it in a suitcase. That's what happened, because normal human being, I don't care how small they are, they're not going to fit in even a big, it just, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So this whole thing, you've got a society that has said homeless encampments are fine, drugs are fine, defund the police, great concept. And this is what you end up with. You end up with this kind of thing happening. So now we're trying to work our way out of it. It's going to be a long work our way out of it. Yep. Okay. All right. Sorry I didn't have a cheerier story, but sometimes these stories they're brutal and they're hardcore, but that is also life, right? So we'll keep following this storyline. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.